At some point in everyday human life, almost everyone experiences it. A moment that seems simple, almost insignificant. A brief encounter, a handshake, a smile, a short introduction. A name is spoken. Once, clear, simple. And then, just a few seconds later, it is gone, as if it was never truly heard in the first place. You try to recall it. You try to replay the moment in your mind. But the harder you try, the more distant it becomes. And the strange part is this: it is not because you did not care. It is not because you were not listening. It is because something far deeper is happening inside the human brain. And this leads to a surprisingly profound question. Why do we so often forget the names of people we have just met? To understand this, we have to go somewhere invisible, inside the human brain, a system that never stops working, even when we are unaware of it. The human brain is not a recording device. It is not a camera that captures everything equally. It is a filtering system, a survival-based processor designed not to remember everything, but to decide what matters. And that changes everything about memory. When you meet someone for the first time, your brain is not primarily focused on their name. Even if you believe you are paying attention, your mind is doing something far more complex underneath. It is analyzing their face, their tone of voice, their posture, their emotional state, their confidence, their intentions. And in the background, it is silently asking, is this person important enough to store in long-term memory? Because the brain has one dominant priority: efficiency. And in that moment, a name is just abstract information, a sound, a label, something without meaning, something without emotional weight. And the human brain does not naturally prioritize things that have no meaning yet. So the name enters through your ears, but it does not fully enter your memory system. It passes through like data that has not been marked important. To understand this more clearly, imagine the brain as a massive city. Every second, thousands of signals arrive: faces, sounds, thoughts, emotions, distractions. But only a small portion is allowed into long-term storage. Everything else is filtered out. And during a first introduction, a name has to compete with many things happening at once. Your own self-awareness, your social behavior, how you are being perceived, what you should say next, whether you are making a good impression. This is called cognitive load. And when cognitive load is high, memory formation becomes weaker, meaning that even if you hear the name clearly, your brain may not encode it properly. It is not that you forgot it. It is that it was never fully stored in the first place. But there is something even more interesting happening. The brain does not store information randomly. It stores connections, meaning, emotion, context. Think about it. You remember people who made you laugh. You remember people who made you feel safe. You remember people who made a strong emotional impression on you. But a name on its own is different. It has no image, no emotion, no story. It exists as a floating piece of sound with no anchor. And anything without an anchor is easily lost. This is one of the main reasons names are so difficult for humans to remember. But there is another layer, a deeper one. When you meet someone for the first time, your attention is divided. You are not just listening, you are also thinking. How do I look? How do I sound? What should I say next? Am I being awkward? Do I seem confident? Your brain is actively managing social performance. And social performance consumes mental resources. This is why even important information, like a name, can slip away in the background. Attention is the fuel of memory. Without attention, encoding fails. And without encoding, there is nothing to remember later.
This is why many people experience the same situation repeatedly. They hear a name clearly, but immediately lose it seconds later. There is also another subtle factor: pressure. During introductions, there is often an expectation to respond quickly, to smile, to react, to maintain social flow. In that moment, your brain prioritizes interaction over storage. Because in real-time social situations, responding correctly feels more urgent than memorizing details.
And the brain is always optimized for what feels most immediately important. Another key reason lies in how human memory works in general. The brain does not store isolated facts easily. It stores associations. It remembers patterns. It remembers meaning. It remembers emotional connections. That is why you can remember a childhood place in vivid detail, or a moment that made you feel something deeply. But a single name, spoken once, without context or repetition, has almost nothing to attach itself to. It is like a thread floating in empty space, and loose threads do not stay in memory for long. But things change when repetition or meaning is introduced. If you hear a name multiple times within a short period, or if that person becomes emotionally significant, your brain begins to strengthen the connection. Because repetition signals importance, and emotional meaning signals survival relevance. And the brain is ultimately built around survival prioritization. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Human brains did not evolve to memorize names during quick social introductions. They evolved to detect danger, trust, cooperation, and survival value. In ancient environments, the priority was not remembering someone's label. The priority was answering questions like, is this person safe? Is this person a threat? Can this person help me survive? These questions shaped how attention and memory developed, which is why emotional and survival-related information is prioritized over abstract labels like names. But in the modern world, this creates an interesting mismatch, because today, names are extremely important socially, in work, in relationships, in communication, in networking. Yet the brain still operates using ancient rules, and those rules were never designed for rapid introductions in modern environments. This is where the conflict arises. Modern social life demands fast memory, but the brain prioritizes meaningful memory. And names, especially during first encounters, often fall outside that priority system. However, there is something important hidden in this limitation. Because when we do remember someone's name, it usually means something subtle has changed. Attention was strong enough, or emotion was present enough, or repetition occurred, or the interaction mattered enough to leave a mark. Which means memory is not just about storage, it is about significance. And the brain is constantly asking a silent question: does this deserve to be kept? And most first-time names do not pass that threshold. But there is another interesting human behavior. Even when we forget a name, we often feel the urge to remember it. We mentally replay the introduction. We try to reconstruct it. We feel slightly uncomfortable not knowing. And that emotional discomfort itself reveals something deeper. Humans are not indifferent to connection. Even small social details matter to us more than we realize. Because a name is not just a word. It is an identity, a symbol of a person's existence, a label attached to a human being who just entered our awareness. And even when memory fails, the intention to remember remains. Which says something important about human nature. We are not built to store everything perfectly, but we are built to care about connection. And that care is what drives us to keep trying. To keep remembering, to keep reconnecting. And perhaps that is the real reason why forgetting names is so common. Not because the brain is weak, but because it is selective. It filters the world so we can function. And in doing so, it sometimes lets small details slip away. But it never fully removes the importance of the person behind them.
Because in the end, memory is not just about information. It is about meaning. And meaning is what makes us human.